Every time Black Americans take a step forward in this country, white supremacists throw a tantrum. We call it progress. They call it a threat. And every era of advancement, every hard-won inch toward equality, has been met with a violent wave of backlash. So, let's talk about it. Donald Trump recently reposted a meme on Truth Social blaming Barack and Michelle Obama for worsening racism, saying they set America back 100 years. This, coming from a man whose entire public life has been steeped in racism, from refusing to rent apartments to Black tenants in the 1970s, to calling for the death penalty for the Central Park Five, Black and brown teenage boys at the time, even after they were proven innocent, to spreading the racist birther lie that President Obama wasn't born in America. And now, in 2025, he's just proving that the playbook never changed, only the players did. When enslaved people were freed, what came next? Reconstruction. Black men winning elections, opening schools, building communities. And after that, the Ku Klux Klan, voter suppression, lynching campaigns, and the violent overthrow of Black-led governments across the South. Progress met with terror. I did make a video on Reconstruction a while back, so go check it out. When Black veterans came home from World War I in uniform, having fought for democracy abroad, white mobs murdered them for daring to expect democracy at home. That became known as the Red Summer of 1919. In one of the most haunting examples, a Black soldier named Wilbur Little was lynched in Georgia for refusing to take off his army uniform after stepping off the train that brought him home from war. He had risked his life for a country that still refused to see him as a man. And he wasn't the only one. Across the nation, white mobs attacked Black veterans simply for wearing their uniforms in public, because those uniforms symbolized equality. And then there's Tulsa. When Black prosperity blossomed in Tulsa's Greenwood district, a thriving neighborhood known as Black Wall Street, the backlash was swift and brutal. Greenwood wasn't just wealthy, it was successful on its own terms. Black doctors, lawyers, barbershops, grocery stores, newspapers, tailors, hotels, and a fully functioning economy built by Black families who were shut out of white society. Some residents were millionaires in today's dollars. All of it built just 50 years after slavery was abolished. Proof that Black excellence could flourish when given even a sliver of space. And that's exactly why white supremacists burned it all down. In 1921, after a false accusation against a Black teenager, white mobs, many deputized by local police, stormed Greenwood. They looted homes, they set businesses on fire. Eyewitnesses reported private planes dropping incendiary bombs. Black residents were shot in the street or dragged from their homes. By the time it ended, over 35 square blocks were destroyed. Up to 300 Black men, women, and children were killed. More than 10,000 Black residents were left homeless overnight. And not a single white rioter was ever held accountable. Greenwood wasn't destroyed because of crime or chaos or uprisings. It was destroyed because white supremacists couldn't tolerate the sight of Black wealth, Black self-sufficiency, and Black dignity thriving without white control. That's the pattern, and you see it again in the 1960s. After the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act finally outlawed segregation and protected Black voting rights in 1965, white politicians had a problem. They could no longer legally defend segregation. They could no longer say, we don't want Black people in our schools, or we don't want Black people voting. So they rebranded their racism with new language. They called it law and order. Law and order wasn't about crime. It was a political weapon designed to frame Black Americans as dangerous, disruptive, and undeserving without ever mentioning race. Barry Goldwater hinted at it in 1964. Richard Nixon perfected it in 1968. His advisors admitted on tape that law and order was designed to attract racist voters without sounding racist.
Why do white people resent Black excellence? Let's talk about it. Not all white people are racist, obviously, but there is a specific subset for whom Black excellence seems like a personal affront to them, right? It really bothers them when Black people succeed. The 13th Amendment emancipated enslaved Black Americans in 1865, and then the Jim Crow laws kind of wrapped up with the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. So if we do the math, that's about 61 years in which Black Americans were able to strive for success in any sort of meaningful way without like the constraints of the law pulling them down. 61 years. If we compare that to white Americans who besieged a land already owned and occupied by indigenous Americans, we'll put that around 1620 when, the Mayflower came here, then that gives them about 425 years to establish success in this country. 425 versus 61. If we compare those two fundamentally very different time spans, like, how much did white Americans actually do in all of that time? If we are to compare even the poorest and most underprivileged of white America to Black America generally, it is clear that white Americans are born way past the start line, right? By that I mean, by like nature of being white in American society, you do benefit from all sorts of privileges. And like, to be frank, you're not exhausted by the horrible experience of facing racism on a daily basis, right? You do have a ton of privileges. So I imagine existing in this bubble of privilege that you like totally deny. The existence of Black people for whom success is like second nature, when it comes so easily and so readily, even though you've only had 61 years to achieve it, I imagine that's exhausting and frustrating. I imagine it makes people feel super, super inferior and hurts certain people's tiny, tiny little egos. And what do they blame that deep, deep psychic pain on? Well, of course, DEI and critical race theory and affirmative action. So I guess the question is, what might help those white Americans who just so strongly detest Black excellence? Like, what will help you? And for that, I would suggest like a lot of therapy, like a ton of therapy. And I would also just suggest that we open the schools, right? We teach people history. Yeah, maybe? Okay, bye!
Alright, the white Americans are wondering, why are Black Americans still making progress despite the hardship? There's a belief of some people strongly believe that Black Americans have made progress and are now continuing to move forward despite the past. On the surface, that sounds positive to our ears, but when you look closer, it can create tension because not everyone has that progress the same way. I have clips here. Watch them. I will come back, all right?
One of the things that upholds white supremacy and racism the most is the fact that there are exceptions. And because of these exceptions, when white people are confronted about the realities of racism, whether systemic or individual, then they point to these people and say, well, look at this can't be true. That's why a lot of people point to Obama and say, see, the fact that Obama was president means that racism can't possibly be that big of an issue, despite the fact that 98% of all presidents have been white men over the age of 45. Or the fact that racism is deeply ingrained into the police force, that police officers started out as patrols to catch enslaved people. Exceptions make it possible for white supremacy to sustain itself. And it's obviously not the fault of Obama or the people who are able to escape the system, but it is in fact the responsibility of white people to recognize that these are exceptions and that for the vast majority of Black and brown people in America, they experience systemic oppression as well as other types of racism on a day-to-day basis. And until we can all get on the same page about the fact that Obama and other successful Black and brown people all have done so despite the system being against them, which has been incredibly impressive, we're not going to make any progress because the white population as a whole is living in denial.
The amount of special treatment that Black women get in the workplace blows my mind. They can be dumber than a box of rocks. They're given special leeway. They don't abide by the dress code. They're late all the time. And there's always an excuse. And if you're a manager and you hold them to this excuse, you're the racist because their kid or something happened in their family. And we have to stretch the rules for them. We have to overlook it. We can't say anything. Managers are afraid to approach them and confront them about the dress code, confront them about their hair, confront them about tardiness, because they'll have a video made. Somebody will say you're being racist. And so managers all over the world, owners, when you hire Black women, be prepared what comes along with that. Be prepared for your other workers to feel highly uncomfortable when they're constantly seeing somebody not abide by the rules and not a damn thing is done about it. Not a damn thing. And most businesses will stand by and will put up with mediocre performances because they want to keep their doors open and they don't want a TikTok video made about how racist they are.
You got to ask the question, is there some validity to it? Now, you're going to have black women that say that white women and white people automatically have the leg up on them because they can get away with murder and they can do whatever it is that they want. And I just seen a video probably 2 or 3 days ago. I did a reaction to it and it was a lot of motion on it. And that's why I'm addressing this issue again, because a girl said that she worked in HR and that black women, was largely getting laid off and they didn't have the leg up that they were supposed to have because they are more educated, but, they slip up here and there and they have a bad hair day, so they wear a bonnet at work and, they are 15 minutes late on a regular basis, but they should be able to be 15 minutes late on a regular basis. So the synopsis is accurate. My analysis of this whole situation.
Let's begin by this. There has been progress in America, from the days of the civil rights movements today. Many barriers have been broken, law changed, opportunities opened, and representation increased in areas like politics, business, and entertainment. That part is real. And many white Americans look at that and say, things are better now. They have made their progress. But here is the problem, the difference, Progress does not always mean equality, okay? Just because things are better, that before doesn't mean that they are now equal now, that not all of them are equal. And that's something many black Americans continue to point out. Because while some doors have been opened, others still feel harder than to reach, And economic gaps still exist. Opportunities are not always equal. Experience can still be very, very different depending on where you are and how or who you are. So when someone says you've made progress, it can feel incomplete, not wrong, but not the full picture that people are talking about. There's also something happening. For some people, recognizing progress becomes a way of avoiding a deeper conversation about the black people. It can turn into, if things are better, why are you still talking about problem? And that's where the problem comes in. Because from one side, it sounds like appreciation. From the other side, it can sound like a dismissal. Another layer is expectation. When people believe progress has already been solved, has already been done, they expect less complaints, less protest, and less concern. But when those concern continues, it creates confusion. Why is this still an issue, right? So progress is not the same as completion. It's a step forward, not the finish line. Different people experience that progress in different ways. Some see opportunity, others still face barriers, but both can exist at the same time. So that's what makes the conversation complex. It's not about denying progress. It's about understanding that progress does not erase everything that came before or everything that still exists. But progress is there, is real, but so are the challenges that remain. And when people see that sensibility, the thinking can change. The way conversation can become difficult, okay, but they can. They are also necessary, right? God bless you. I'm out.